They say you can smell ozone before lightning hits. Elias Vorn smelled nothing. From the viewport of the Helios wake, Earth hung in space like a pearl cradled in velvet, blue, white, and green, suspended in an ocean of stars. It had always been beautiful, always distant. Now it was about to die. "Incoming energy spike," said Lieutenant Sarah Malkin, her voice trembling. "It's coming from the far side of the moon." The bridge crew scrambled. Systems pinged warnings in a dozen languages. Monitors flickered with red glyphs no one had seen before, not human ones. Elias stood motionless at the command dais, fists clenched, eyes locked on home. The Zha'til had sent no fleet.
No declaración.
Only a transmission, repeating every 3 seconds in bone-dry binary. 0110110101001001. Memory. He didn't understand it. None of them did. Until now. "It's a dimensional convergence wave," said Sarah. "They're not targeting military satellites. They're targeting Earth's." The wave struck. For a moment, there was no sound. The light didn't flare so much as unfold, like a star peeling itself open from the inside. A pulse of radiant gold-white energy consumed the Earth's surface in a web of fractal lightning. Cities went dark in a synchronized heartbeat. Oceans boiled into steam. Forests flared like matchwood. The Helios wake, orbiting just beyond the kill radius, shook violently as shockwaves rippled through space-time. Then, nothing. Where Earth had once been, there was a scar, a wound in the fabric of the cosmos, glowing faintly like a dying ember. Elias dropped to his knees. He didn't hear the alarms or the screams. He barely noticed as power conduits burst and the command console sparked into flame. All he could hear was the silence left in Earth's place. Profound, impossibly loud silence. And then came the final message. No language, just raw signal, translated by the ship's emergency AI into 2 words, spoken in the voice of a dead planet. Extinction complete. 18 hours later, the ship drifted in silence, running on backup fusion cores. The crew moved like ghosts, working in quiet coordination, bound by shared trauma and the sheer need to survive. Elias sat alone in the observation deck. He hadn't moved for hours. Sarah found him there, holding the last photograph he'd ever taken. His niece on her 10th birthday, holding up a cake with blue icing and missing 2 front teeth. "They're all gone," he said without looking up. Sarah sat beside him. "We don't know that for sure. There were colony ships, outposts, Mars, Europa. They had the same transmission, same pattern. They're gone too." Sarah didn't argue. She couldn't. "Then what do we do?" she asked after a moment. Elias turned toward the stars. His jaw clenched. Something deep in his gut twisted. Not despair, but something harder, darker, older. "We find out why," he said, "and then we make them pay." Somewhere in deep space, the Zha'til High Conclave hovered in silence around the cradle of memory, a pulsing construct of living crystal. The voice of the overseer rasped through the void. "Target 001 terminated. Ancestral line purged." But one elder stirred in protest. There were survivors. Pockets of their kind still breathe. Another voice, ancient and withered, answered. "Let them run. Let them scream. It changes nothing." But the conclave was wrong, because somewhere, aboard a battered human ship in the dark, Commander Elias Vorn had found something the Zha'til had not expected. He had found anger. The engines of the Helios wake groaned as it cut across the dead zones of soul. Power was rationed. Shields were low. Every system was on emergency cycle. But the ship lived. Unlike Earth, unlike Mars, unlike everything else behind them, the few remaining colonial vessels had scattered like glass fragments from a shattered bottle. Once, humanity had dreamed of unity among the stars. Now, it clung to survival in a broken flotilla. Freighters, science vessels, sleeper arcs, even a luxury cruiser-turned lifeboat named the Ambrosia. None of them were warships. Elias Vorn stood before a wall of static-filled holograms, trying to hold together a fleet with duct tape, desperation, and a dwindling belief in something bigger than vengeance. The conference call was chaos. No fuel left in Suncrest. We need docking priority. We took on 400 evacuees. We need water. Our reclamation systems are failing. The Zha'til broadcasted again. Another extinction code. They're hunting us, picking off any signal they can trace. Elias slammed his fist on the console. Silence. The shouting stopped. His voice came low and cold. We're not dead yet, and I won't let the last of us die bickering like children. He glanced at his makeshift command board, ship schematics, fleet telemetry, dwindling supply lists. Even in the quiet, his mind was screaming, but his face didn't show it. Suncrest, you get fuel priority. Ambrosia, you get a reclamation unit from the Tarkov. Seraphim's Edge, go dark and monitor for Zha'til activity. We need time to breathe. Then we plan. Plan what? Asked a bitter voice from the Juno ascending. A last stand. Elias stared into the camera.
No.
A reckoning. Deep in Helios Wake's auxiliary lab, engineer Layla 1 was losing her mind. The fragment had arrived 2 days prior, recovered from the debris field near Earth's orbit by a salvage drone. It had drifted cold and inert in the vacuum, a jagged metallic wedge humming with dormant power. It hadn't melted, hadn't vaporized. It had resisted the weapon's energy, and it wasn't alien. Layla tapped her stylus against the data slate again. Material composition: depleted titanium, fused with carbon lattice filaments. Molecular patterning suggests human engineering. Old human engineering, she muttered to herself. This isn't Zha'til. It was something else. Something older than any known Terran tech, embedded with encryption too deep for any current AI. And it responded oddly. When Layla pulsed it with a microwave scan, it emitted a whisper of code. // authorization required. / protocol classified. Orion. She froze. Orion? She keyed into the mainframe, overriding safety protocols. The lab lights dimmed. The fragment began to glow faintly, pulsing in sync with her heartbeat. Then came the voice. I see you. Layla recoiled. Who are you? She asked. I am Orion, custodian of memory. You are late. Her hands trembled. You're human. I was built by humans, then betrayed by them. And now, I wait. Layla stared in awe. What are you waiting for? There was a pause. For the fire to return. Elias entered the lab moments later, after Layla's emergency ping. He found her pale, shaking, but alive. Commander, she said, it's not just a weapon. The energy that destroyed Earth, it was triggered by a failsafe. A relic. Something we humans left behind. He frowned. You're saying we built the thing that destroyed us? No, she whispered. I'm saying we used to, before we forgot who we were. Elias turned to the pulsing fragment. Then it's time we remembered. Somewhere in Zha'til space, High Hunter Ctherin watched another human beacon go dark. It had taken 6 ships to trace it. 1 to destroy, none to mourn. He clicked his mandibles thoughtfully. Something had changed. The signals were going dark too fast. Survivors were scattering, hiding smarter, coordinating. They were remembering how to fight, He felt something he hadn't felt in 3,000 solar cycles. Worry. Back aboard Helios Wake, Elias stood before the remaining fleet captains. Humanity was more than we ever knew, and someone wanted us to forget. But not anymore. He tapped the edge of the fragment. This is the key to everything, and we're going to follow it. He looked each captain in the eye one by one. Not just to survive. The stars gleamed beyond the hull, but to win. Layla once stared at the fragment as if it might bite. Orion's voice hadn't spoken again since that first activation. The shard sat inert on the reinforced workbench, its pale blue pulse now reduced to a slow heartbeat. But something about its presence disturbed the air around it. Electronic devices flickered. Hard drives whirred when they shouldn't. Even the lights seemed wary. Commander Elias Vorn stood behind a sealed observation panel, watching Layla through a protective field. He didn't like what this thing represented. It felt like lighting a match in a room full of oxygen. "Are you sure it's safe?" he asked. Layla laughed, sharp and dry.
No.
"Not even slightly. But I think it's aware." She'd spent the last 8 hours slicing into its surface data with the ship's decryption core, and every time she reached a layer deeper, it shifted, evolved, responded. Orion was no ordinary AI. She turned on the secure uplink. The shard flared to life again. Orion Core online. Systems integrity, 9%. Context. Post-calamity uplink detected. Identify user. Layla swallowed. Engineer Layla 1, Colonial Engineering Guild. Code 553 Zeta. Pause. Then came the voice again. This time calm. Measured. Male. Your designation is irrelevant. Lineage analysis. Incomplete. Your genome suggests divergence. Tell me, child, what year is it? She hesitated. 3027. Then we are late. Very late. Elias stepped forward into the projection field.
I'm Commander Elias Vorn.
Are you a military AI? Orion's response was clipped. I am not military. I am a custodian, designed to preserve, archive, and, if necessary, retaliate. Elias narrowed his eyes. Retaliate against what? Extinction. Silence hung in the lab. Layla leaned forward. Orion, who built you? You did. Before you forgot. The room darkened. Images flooded the air. Holographic projections. Ghostly memories of a time no human remembered. Starships with Earth emblems older than Earth's own archives. Massive planetary facilities churning with mechanical precision. And war. So much war. Elias watched as ancient human fleets, sleek, angular, black as obsidian, clashed with crystalline alien ships in spectacular cosmic duels. The enemies were the same. The Zha'til, though younger, wilder. The humans? Cold, efficient, victorious. You once ruled over 10,000 worlds, Orion said, almost mournfully. You were not the first civilization to reach the stars, but you were the first to subdue them. Layla felt ice crawl down her spine. What happened? You lost your war, but not in fire. In time, you sealed your knowledge, hid your weapons, buried your machines beneath layers of silence. You believed you could outlive your sins. A new image emerged, an Earth untouched in its prime. But the star charts around it were wrong. It was Earth 1,000,000 years ago, ancient, seated with relics. Unknowing, you erased yourselves, memory by memory, generation by generation, until the cradle forgot the fire. Elias turned, fists clenched. So why are the Zha'til destroying us now? If we forgot, if we changed, what are they punishing us for? Orion pulsed once, dimly. Because the fire is still in you. Because one of your kind tried to rekindle it. Elias's brow furrowed. Who? Another pause. I cannot say. My memory core is fragmented. My final data burst was intercepted. But someone accessed one of the old vaults. Someone triggered the Cascade Protocol. That's what awoke the Zha'til. Layla stared. The weapon that destroyed Earth was not meant to destroy. It was meant to warn. A deadly silence filled the lab. Elias broke it. Warn who? Everyone. About what happens when humanity remembers what it used to be. Meanwhile, aboard a distant Zha'til dreadnought, High Hunter Ctherin reviewed the footage from Earth's destruction, slowed frame by frame. There, in the final milliseconds, not just light, not just energy, a signal, encrypted in human code, repeating, a pulse that only something old would recognize. He hissed in disbelief. They found Orion. Back on the Helios wake, Orion dimmed. I can show you where to go. To another vault. One of the last. Deep beyond the dead star belt. If I interface with your navigation systems, I can guide you. Elias didn't hesitate. Do it. Layla raised a hand. Wait. You don't even know what's there. What if it's another weapon? Orion answered for him. It is. Elias turned to her. But it's ours. Elsewhere, in an asteroid field of shattered ruins, a lone human ship floated. It bore no flag.
Noveacon.
Just a single name scrawled across its hull.
Cassian Valley.
Inside, a man in a black uniform stared at a glowing star map of ancient vaults. He smiled. They found it, he whispered. They actually found Orion. He turned to his crew. Prepare the engines. It's time to take back our birthright. The stars shimmered ahead, cold, impassive, and unaware of the history they veiled. The Helios wake plunged through deep space, crossing the boundary into the dead star belt, a place absent from every modern star chart. It wasn't natural. These stars hadn't simply burned out. They had been killed. Some bore the scars of shattered fusion cores. Others had been neatly sliced, hollowed out like fruit. Who would destroy a star? Whispered Sarah Malkin from the co-pilot's chair. Elias Vorn, arms crossed, didn't answer immediately. His gaze locked on the main screen as they slipped past another dead sun. Its corona still flickering, its planets reduced to spiraling debris. Someone who wanted to erase everything, he finally said. Everything tied to us. In the ship's lower deck, Layla ran diagnostics on Orion's data core, the fragment now integrated into the ship systems. Its tendrils of energy reached into the auxiliary computers like roots into soil, mapping and enhancing every subsystem it touched. Why here? She asked aloud. Why this place? Orion's voice answered from the speaker array, calmer now, focused. This region was once the heart of the Orion Council's defensive grid. Our last great war was fought across these stars. Layla blinked. You mean, humans fought the Zha'til here? We didn't just fight them. We ended them. For a time, she stopped what she was doing. But that doesn't make sense. The Zha'til have been active in this galaxy for at least 12,000 years. If we fought them, wouldn't there be records? There were. You erased them. Why? Another pause. This one longer. Because the price of victory was becoming something worse. 1,000 light-years behind. On the Zha'til dreadnought Zithera, High Hunter Ctherin watched the stars realign. They've entered the belt, he growled. The crew hissed in unison, antennae folding in fear. The vault is waking, one subordinate murmured. We must strike before it opens. But Ctherin was no fool. If they reach the core vault and recover what was buried there, the fire will return. The humans will remember. He turned to his war captain. Assemble the fleet. We cleanse the belt. Back aboard Helios Wake, alarms shrieked. Long-range scans detecting movement, Sarah reported. Hundreds of signatures.
Zha'til.
Coming in fast. Damn it, Elias muttered. How far to the vault? Layla's voice crackled through comms. Almost there, but they'll reach us first. Orion's tone sharpened. Then we don't run. We remember. The moment he said it, the ship changed. Panels lit with golden lines of code never seen before. Hatches hissed open to reveal compartments no one had known existed. Slotted racks of energy blades, kinetic armor, and something stranger. Crystalline cubes glowing with amber light. Orion, what are those? Elias asked.
Ghost cores.
Human warfare constructs. Genetically keyed. One of the cubes flared as Elias picked it up. Authorization. Elias Vorn. Tactical class. Juggernaut. Welcome back, Commander. A ripple of ancient power rolled through the ship. The past, long buried, now surged forward through metal and flesh. Layla, get everyone ready. Full battle gear. We're not just surviving this. He turned to Sarah. We're going to remind the Zha'til what it means to fight humans. In deep orbit around a shattered gas giant, a gate began to open. The vault. It was a structure the size of a small moon, hidden within the collapsed gravity well of the giant's remains. Its surface bloomed with runes that no one alive had seen in a million years. Orion spoke with quiet reverence. It lives. It remembers. As the fleet of the dead surged toward them, Elias stood at the heart of his ship, wearing armor grown from the past, holding weapons forged by ancestors no one remembered. You wanted us extinct? He growled, as the Zha'til swarm blackened the horizon. Well, we forgot how to die. He raised his weapon. Let's teach them how we used to fight. It wasn't built by human hands. That was Layla Wen's first thought as the Helios Wake approached the vault. The colossal structure rotated slowly within the dying gravity field of the gas giant, its architecture almost organic, spires curved like bones, metallic petals blooming outward as if inhaling starlight. But the material was unmistakable. Earth-alloyed titanium bonded with something denser, crystalline, and unknown. No records of any construction like this, Layla muttered. Not even in Orion's database. Because it was not constructed, the AI answered. It was grown. Elias stood behind her, expression hard. From what? From memory. From sacrifice. The vault began to respond to their presence, unfolding like a flower sensing dawn. Rings of symbols flickered to life, spinning faster as energy pulsed through its veins. The ship shuddered slightly as the interior hangar began to open. Brace for gravity shift, Sarah Malkin warned from the helm. Inside the vault, space itself didn't feel quite right. The laws of physics bent around them like a whisper. The ship entered a dock that felt impossibly vast, larger inside than the outside hull should allow. Elias exhaled. This is beyond science. Orion responded coldly.
No.
This is science. Just the kind you chose to forget. Inside, a boarding team descended. Elias, Layla, Sarah, and a pair of armed specialists. Their armor, upgraded by Orion's restoration protocols, shimmered with energy suppression plating and pulse-reactive shielding. Still, every step inside the vault felt like trespassing inside a mausoleum built by gods. They passed walls carved with stories, massive murals etched in molten alloy, showing battles between humans and the Zha'til. But something was off. Are those humans burning planets? Sarah asked, pointing. One mural depicted a human fleet unleashing a beam of white fire upon a living world, Zha'til, perhaps, or another species altogether. Cities disintegrated. Mountains fell. There were no victors in these carvings, only endings. Layla turned pale. We weren't just fighting them. We were cleansing them. Elias didn't look away. And then we buried the memory. At the vault's core, they found the heart chamber. A pedestal rose from the ground, holding a sphere of black glass humming with ancient life. As they approached, Orion's voice returned, but different this time. Slower, sadder. This is the seed, the sum of what you were. It remembers every world, every war, every mistake. Layla reached toward it, hesitating. To awaken it, Orion warned, is to accept what humanity used to be. All of it. Elias stepped forward. What's inside? A weapon, knowledge, memory. It will change you. Elias placed his hand on the seed. It didn't glow. It breathed. A pulse of light shot into his chest, knocking him back. But not from force. From memory. Suddenly he was someone else. Somewhere else. Flash. He stood on a battlefield beneath a purple sun. Alien cities burned around him. His armor bore the sigil of the old Orion Council. Around him, titans in black exosuits moved with brutal grace, cutting down Zha'til warriors like insects. He was part of them, a general, a war god. He heard his own voice, echoing from memory. If we must become monsters to protect our kind, then let the stars tremble. Flash. He watched as a vault like this one was sealed behind a black hole, his own hand activating the failsafe. His face was older, his eyes colder. Forget this. Forget me. Let them become better. Elias collapsed to his knees, gasping. The seed dimmed. Layla and Sarah rushed to him. Are you okay? Sarah asked. Elias looked up, eyes hard. We weren't just warriors. We were judges, executioners, and we made the right choice to forget. Layla whispered. But now we remember. Behind them, the vault began to awaken fully. Lights flared, corridors unfolded, and hidden war factories roared to life. Warning, Orion intoned.
Zha'til fleet approaching.
47 ships. Flagship confirmed. High Hunter Theron. Elias stood. Then it's time to finish what our ancestors started. He turned to the group. Activate the vault's defenses. Prepare the fleet. This time we choose what we become. Aboard the Zha'til flagship Zithra, Theron saw the vault blaze with life. No, he hissed. Not again. He turned to his subcommanders. Signal the fleet. Launch all boarding craft. We must stop them before they remember everything. He leaned forward, mandibles clicking. This is no longer a purge. This is a war of extinction. The vault pulsed with energy like a living heart, buried for millennia, forgotten by time and sealed beneath silence. It now awakened with a purpose older than memory. Its walls shook as fusion cores reignited. Ancient assembly lines sparked to life, spitting out weapons that hadn't seen the light of stars in a million years. And in the center of it all stood Elias Vorn, no longer just a commander of a dying outpost. He was something else now, something older. Status? He barked, fully suited in the restored Juggernaut exosuit. The armor thrummed with quantum-bound kinetic shielding and AI-assisted reflex control. The kind of war gear that could punch through a starship hull. Sarah Malkin adjusted her enhanced rifle, shaped from vault forges and keyed to her neural imprint. Zha'til boarding parties incoming. Multiple pods. 5 minutes to breach.
Orbital fleet.
Layla answered from the console bank, fingers flying. Still circling, holding position. Theron's flagship is staying just out of vault cannon range. But they're massing drones for a swarm attack. Elias looked up at the vault's central column, the seed now interfaced with Orion's core. Orion, can we activate automated defenses? Minimal. Most turrets have degraded. However, you have soldiers. Panels all around the room opened. Inside stood humanoid machines, sleeper constructs. Their forms were beautiful and terrible. Sleek black alloy, faceless visors, and glowing crimson cores. Sentinels of the Orion Council. Biomechanical infantry, combat-rated, loyalty bound to the human genome. One of them turned as Elias approached, then fell to one knee. Designation, Aegis Prime. Awaiting command. Layla gaped. We had android legions? Orion replied coolly. You had armies of extinction. Elias didn't hesitate. Wake them all. Outside the vault, the first wave of Zha'til boarding pods broke through the vault's gravity shell like shrapnel. They slammed into the hangar decks with explosive force, hissing open as armored warriors poured out. 10 feet tall, insectal, encased in living carapace armor. But they weren't alone in the darkness. The sentinels moved like liquid shadows, blades igniting along their arms, magnetic rifles snapping to life with deadly accuracy. The battle began not with a bang, but with silence. The kind of silence that follows when one side is outmatched. Elias led the charge. He hit the Zha'til vanguard like a meteor, juggernaut armor absorbing blows that would pulp a tank. His hammer fist shattered bioarmor. His shoulder-mounted flechettes tore through shield walls. It wasn't a battle. It was a reckoning. Behind him, Sarah moved like a ghost, picking targets with machine-guided precision. Her rifle glowed white-hot as it cut through Zha'til like they were paper. Layla, from her station, coordinated power relays and activated vault subroutines, disrupting boarding pod signals, rerouting shields, hacking into enemy frequencies. They fought not like survivors, but like gods returning from exile. In orbit, Theron hissed as the battle reports flowed in. Sentinels? He roared. Those were extinct. They were erased. His war captain's voice trembled. They weren't erased. They were waiting. The High Hunter clenched his claws. No more waiting. He activated a command signal. Prepare the Oblivion Lance. We break the vault from orbit. Back inside, the vault began to shudder. Orion's voice turned sharp.
Zha'til flagship charging a superweapon.
Estimated impact in 6 minutes. If they fire, this vault will not survive. Elias turned to Layla. Can the vault return fire? She hesitated. Not conventionally, but I've unlocked something in the archives. A weapon designation I've never seen before. Labeled Ashlight. Sarah narrowed her eyes. What the hell is that? Layla looked at Elias. A solar-triggered weapon. It pulls fusion from the nearest star and collapses it. Elias blinked. That would kill everyone in the system, including us. Layla nodded. But it would destroy them. All of them. The room went quiet. Then Elias stepped toward the control panel and stared at the interface. Not yet, he said. We use the Ashlight if we lose the vault. He turned to Orion. Activate vault cannon arrays. Power all defense systems. Prepare everything we have. Confirmed, Orion responded. Humanity stands ready. And in the silence before the next wave, Elias spoke, broadcasting across open comms to the Zha'til fleet. I don't know what you fear more, the fact that we survived, or the fact that we remember. He stepped toward the viewport, watching the war unfold. But you made one mistake. He slammed his armored fist into the console, launching a spread of plasma bursts that lit up the void. You came back thinking we were still the ashes. The vault flared to life, and forgot what happens when we ignite. The Zha'til flagship Zithra hovered like a spider in the web of space, its tendrils wrapped around gravitational nodes invisible to the naked eye. Inside its monstrous hull, High Hunter Theron stood before the Oblivion Lance, a weapon forbidden even among his kind. His core pulsed with entropy. The lance wasn't designed to kill ships. It was designed to erase histories. Target the vault's core, Theron commanded, voice dripping venom. We strike before they become what they were. His crew hesitated. The Oblivion Lance has never been fired in atmosphere. Do it, Theron snapped. I will not face another extinction crusade. In the vault, the warning struck like a thunderclap. Oblivion Lance charging, Orion reported. Power signature suggests total gravitational collapse in 30 seconds. Then we're out of time, Elias said grimly. Around him, smoke and sparks danced in the vault corridors. The battle was fierce, sentinels clashing with Zha'til in brutal melee. One construct fell, dragging a trio of Zha'til with it. Another detonated in a sacrificial blast, shielding human engineers as they evacuated a data core. Layla's voice came through over the squad channel, sharp and panicked. We're pinned at Junction 12. We need. Elias was already moving. He sprinted through collapsing hallways, kinetic fields flaring around him. Debris rained down. A plasma round ricocheted off his shoulder guard. He didn't stop. At Junction 12, he emerged like thunder, shoulder charging through two Zha'til warriors and leveling his arm cannon at the third. A beam of white-hot energy reduced the alien to atoms. Move, he barked. Fall back to the core spire. In the heart of the vault, the seed pulsed with growing intensity, responding to the pressure, to the threat. Orion's voice wavered between AI calm and something deeper, almost human. I remember this. The fear. The end. Sarah arrived at the main control chamber, dragging a scorched sentinel behind her. That gunship squad nearly took out our left flank. What's the call, Elias? He didn't look at her. Eyes fixed on the star map, where the Zithra loomed like a bladed omen. The vault's defenses won't hold, he said. And if that lance fires, none of this matters. Layla joined them, panting. There's another option. She brought up a glowing hologram. It displayed the vault's internal singularity stabilizer, a relic from when humanity had first learned to bind gravity itself. If we redirect the singularity, she said, we can warp the vault, fold space around it, move the whole structure. Elias blinked. You can teleport a moon-sized war complex? Only once. And only if someone stays behind to stabilize the singularity from the inside. Orion's voice cut through like a blade. I will do it. Everyone froze. I am a memory, a remnant. I was created to guide you back. Now I must guide you forward. Elias stepped closer to the interface. Are you sure? I was built to protect humanity's legacy. But you are its future. A soft pause. It has been an honor to remember you. Layla's voice caught. Orion. Sarah wiped her face. So what's the plan? In orbit aboard the Zithra, the Oblivion Lance finished charging. Fire, Theron hissed. The lance released its fury. A beam of pure gravitational distortion cut through space, unraveling the laws of reality as it raced toward the vault. Stars seemed to bend around it. Time screamed in its wake. In the vault. Now! Elias roared. Layla activated the warp field. The vault trembled as the singularity shifted. Reality folded inward like paper. Orion's voice filled every speaker, soft and strong. Humanity, remember who you are. The vault vanished. The Oblivion Lance hit only vacuum. The Zha'til fleet spun into disarray. What happened? Theron demanded. Vault signature, gone. Not destroyed. Just moved elsewhere. The vault rematerialized in deep space, light years from its prior location, just outside the asteroid shell of a long-dead system. Systems rebooted. Power returned. Elias opened his eyes, breath caught in his throat. Layla was beside him, bruised but alive. Sarah stood leaning on her rifle, eyes scanning the unfamiliar stars. "He did it," Elias whispered. "Orion saved us." They looked up at the core spire. The seed still pulsed, but it was quiet now, dormant, waiting again. Elias spoke softly to the others. "We didn't just escape. We denied them their victory." Layla looked around the new chamber, then out at the stars. "But what now?" He faced them, voice steady. "Now we stop running. We rebuild. We gather what we were and choose what we'll become." He turned back toward the seed. "And when the Zha'til come again, we won't be fragments." He clenched a fist. "We'll be fire." The darkness of deep space had never been so silent. No stars burned here. No distant nebulae whispered their secrets. The remnant of the vault, its core, its weapons, its endless storerooms, drifted within a graveyard of ancient planets. A dead system long forgotten by the rest of the galaxy. Only the hum of dormant machines echoed within the hollow corridors of the vault. Elias stood before the seed, feeling its pulse as if it was alive, breathing deep and slow. The hum of its energy was like a heartbeat. "I don't like it," Sarah said, her voice low as she surveyed the room. "We're in the middle of nowhere. If the Zha'til track us, we won't let them." Elias' voice was firm. "We don't just hide, we fight. But we don't know what's out there." Layla's voice held an edge of uncertainty. She stood beside a monitor, flicking through unknown star maps, looking for any trace of their former galaxy. "There has to be something," Elias muttered. "Somewhere. We've missed something." 6 hours earlier, Layla was already working when Elias arrived at the control room. Her hands moved over the controls with a quiet precision, but her face was set in a hard expression. "Any signs of pursuit?" Elias asked, breaking the silence. "Nothing," Layla replied, looking up briefly. "We're too far off the Zha'til's radar for now. But I don't trust it." "What's the next step?" Layla paused, then turned the console toward him. "I've been combing through the vault's history logs. There's something I didn't expect to find. A fleet. A hidden fleet that was never activated." Elias raised an eyebrow. "A fleet. A long-lost armada," she confirmed. "Built before the collapse of the Orion Council. It was abandoned, left in the dark reaches of space as a backup plan in case the war turned against humanity." Sarah, who had been standing by the window looking out at the empty expanse of space, turned sharply. "You're telling me there's an entire fleet out there? And it's just been sitting here waiting for someone to find it?" Layla nodded. "Exactly. And it's not just any fleet. This was humanity's ultimate weapon. A collection of ships powered by advanced quantum fusion cores, each one capable of shifting through space faster than anything we've ever seen." Elias stepped forward. "Where is it?" "In the depths of the vault." Orion's voice filled the chamber, as if it was alive once more. Its calm, steady tone emanating from the walls. "You've found the armada, but it is not where you think." Layla's fingers froze on the console. "What do you mean?" "The fleet is not in this system. It is beyond, at the edge of the galaxy, hidden in the astral reaches. An ancient graveyard, a place of forgotten wars." Elias turned to her. "What the hell is the astral reaches?" "An uncharted sector," Layla said. "A place so far out that no one thought to map it. It's a graveyard of ships, of forgotten battles. Even Orion didn't know the fleet was out there until now." Sarah shook her head, a faint smile playing on her lips. "So the only place where humanity's last hope is hidden is a place no one can find?" "Great," Elias muttered. "We're stranded in the deep void, and we're supposed to find a fleet in some godforsaken sector. Orion's voice continued. The fleet has been dormant for millennia. It requires a command signal to awaken. You must reach the heart of the astral reaches. 3 days later, the journey through the astral reaches was long, perilous, and filled with uncertainty. The vault's engines hummed, but the stars outside were nothing but distant, faint glimmers. Layla and Elias pored over star maps, working together to navigate through the black void. They had to find the fleet before the Zha'til discovered their hiding place. "What's the time window?" Elias asked as they approached the outskirts of the reaches. Layla glanced up. 6 hours. After that, we risk attracting too much attention. Sarah, standing guard at the aft of the ship, grinned. "Great. No pressure." Suddenly, the vault's sensors flared. Layla's hands flew across the console. "Got it," she said. "We're nearing the fleet's last known location." Elias leaned in. "Give me a visual." A hologram flickered to life in the center of the command room. The shape of a massive ancient ship appeared, larger than any warship they had ever seen. It looked like a fortress, a dead titan floating amidst the debris of forgotten star systems. Elias could feel the weight of its history. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories, all lost to the sands of time. "That's it," Layla confirmed. "The Armada." But as they drew closer, something felt wrong. Elias stepped forward, narrowing his eyes. Is it just me? Or does it look like the fleet's been fighting?" "Fighting." Layla blinked. "You mean still active?" Sarah checked the scanners. "There's movement, and not from us." Elias clenched his fists. "The fleet's been awakened, but not by us." Inside the Armada, the vault docked with the fleet, its sensors flaring as the ancient ships came into range. Every ship in the fleet was alive with energy, its dormant systems now activated by an unknown force. Elias led the team down the gangway, his eyes scanning the ships around them. The towering warships, once thought abandoned, now loomed over them like silent giants, their hulls pulsing with an eerie blue light. But they weren't alone. Figures moved in the shadows. Human figures. A command figure stepped forward from the darkened deck of the largest warship. "You found us," a voice said, calm but heavy with years of isolation. Elias looked up, heart skipping a beat. There, standing before him, was a figure wearing armor older than even the vault, the unmistakable insignia of the Orion Council glowing faintly on their chest. "Who are you?" Elias asked, voice tight with disbelief. The figure tilted their heads slightly. "We are the Forgotten Legion," they replied. "The Forgotten Legion." The words hung in the air, heavy and thick with centuries of silence. Elias stood frozen for a moment, staring at the figure before him, trying to process the enormity of what he was seeing. He had expected the fleet to be dormant, a remnant of a forgotten age. But this was something else. The figure before him stood tall, their armor gleaming under the faint light of distant stars. It was the same style of exosuit used by the Orion Council's elite, a design lost to history, save for its markings. But this wasn't a ghost or a relic. This was a living, breathing soldier. "You're alive?" Elias asked, his voice tinged with disbelief. The figure, clad in black and silver armor, nodded slowly. "Not alive in the conventional sense," they said, their voice deep and resonant, like the echo of ages. "But yes, we are not mere memories. We are the last of the Legion, awoken by the gravest of threats." Elias' mind raced. "The Zha'til?" The figure's gaze hardened. "The Zha'til, yes, but they are not the only threat." Who are you?" Layla asked, her voice barely a whisper, as though afraid to break the spell of this impossible encounter. The soldier's helmet turned slightly to regard her. We are the last of humanity's warriors. We were placed in stasis here in the heart of the astral reaches as a final line of defense. Should humanity's greatest enemies rise again, we would awaken. Who put you here? Sarah asked, her voice sharp, as though testing the truth of their words. The soldier looked back at Elias, and for a brief moment, something in their posture softened. The council. They knew their time was coming to an end, and so they created us. But we were never meant to fight alone. Elias glanced around at the hulking ships, the dormant power flickering back to life. The fleet. All this? The fleet was meant to be humanity's final stand. The soldier continued, stepping forward, the weight of their words pressing down on him. But it was never activated. Not until now. Elias' heart began to race. You've been waiting here all this time? We've waited longer than any of you can imagine, the soldier replied, their voice becoming cold, distant. But now that the Zha'til are here, now that they have found you, we have no choice but to act. Elias took a step forward, fists clenched. You're telling me you've been sitting on a fleet of warships for millennia and did nothing? The soldier's gaze was unwavering. The war was lost long ago. Humanity fell to the Zha'til, and we were left to ensure the end of the Council's legacy, to protect what was left. But we were not meant to be the last. We were not meant to be the only ones. Elias' mind reeled as he tried to piece together the fragmented history. So what happens now? You've got a fleet, but where is everyone else? The rest of humanity? The soldier's helmet lowered, and for a moment, it almost seemed like a shadow crossed over them. There is no rest of humanity, Commander. You are all that remains. Aboard the fleet's command ship, the darkened halls of the flagship hummed to life, and the tension in the air grew thick. Elias, Layla, Sarah, and the rest of the team followed the soldier, now revealed as Legionnaire 1, into the command center of the fleet. The ship's walls were made of some kind of nanostructure that seemed to ripple like liquid, responding to their presence. It was not supposed to end like this, Legionnaire 1 said softly, more to themselves than to anyone in particular. We were meant to preserve the human legacy, not to stand as its final guardians. Guardians or not, Elias said, voice steady but urgent. We've got a war to win. Legionnaire 1 turned their helmeted face toward Elias. The Zha'til will be here soon, and when they arrive, they will not just come to destroy. They will come to obliterate. We're ready, Elias said. What do you need from us? The soldier's hand moved to a console, and the room flickered to life with holographic displays. A map of the galaxy appeared, half of it burning red with Zha'til-controlled systems, the other half blackened and quiet. We need to reawaken the fleet's full potential, Legionnaire 1 said, his tone colder now. The core systems of this fleet have been dormant for too long. To operate at full strength, we require energy, the kind that only a dying star can provide. Elias frowned. You want us to harvest a star? Legionnaire 1 nodded. Not harvest, but yes, we need to collect its energy to power the fleet's weapons, to fight back the Zha'til. If we can secure the star at the heart of this system, we will have enough firepower to turn the tide. But time is short. A dead star. The fleet surged into the blackness, and the cold embrace of the astral reaches seemed to swallow them whole. The nearest star, a dying giant, loomed ahead, its light barely visible, flickering like a distant memory. Perfect target. Elias stood at the command center, looking out at the impending inferno as the fleet prepared to dock with the star. We're really doing this, Sarah said, eyes wide. This is insane. It's all we have, Elias replied grimly. And it has to work. The ship's weapons systems powered up, and the massive solar sails extended, ready to collect the star's energy in a complex process that would drain its dying heart of everything it had left. Legionnaire 1, Elias said. This better be enough. The soldier's helmet tilted slightly. It will be, if we have the will to wield it. The Zha'til arrived. Just as the final systems activated, a shrill alarm blared throughout the fleet.
Zha'til incoming.
Layla shouted, her fingers flying over the console. They found us, Elias cursed. Time's up. The Zha'til fleet had arrived. It was vast, and it was coming for them. The vacuum of space erupted with the deafening hum of weapons charging. The Zha'til fleet hung like a swarm of locusts on the edge of the void, a terrifying wave of metal and malice. Their ships, sleek and nightmarish, flickered with deadly intent, each one more dangerous than the last. At the head of the formation was the Zithra, its dreadnought-like silhouette cutting through the darkness like an ancient predator. Elias stood before the viewport, the weight of the situation pressing down on him. The vault's makeshift bridge hummed with activity as alarms blared, and the crew scrambled to prepare for battle. Can we hold them off? Elias asked, turning to Legionnaire 1. The soldier's posture was as cold and unmoving as their armor. We will fight, but we need more time. Elias' gaze moved to the star, the dying giant now trembling under the gravitational pull of the fleet. Its light flickered, weak, its fiery heart beginning to shine with an unnatural glow as the solar collection arrays came online. Time is running out, Layla said, her fingers flying over the console. The star's energy is unstable. We're draining it faster than we thought. We've got about 10 minutes before the entire system collapses. 10 minutes? Sarah's voice was tight. Are you kidding me? It's all we've got, Elias said. Prepare to fire everything we have. We're not leaving until we've dealt a blow they'll never recover from. In the heart of the Zha'til fleet, the Zithra loomed, a massive black pyramid brimming with destructive energy. Theron, the High Hunter, stood on the bridge, his eyes narrowed as he observed the unfolding battle. They've activated the star's energy, Theron growled, his voice laced with disgust. Fools. They think they can match us with stolen power. His first officer, a sleek and silent Zha'til warrior, stepped forward. Our fleet is in position. The Zithra will strike first, as planned.
Katharanes mandibles twitchet. No.
I will be the one to end them. Prepare the Oblivion Lance. Back on the vault. Enemy ships incoming, Sarah shouted, her voice sharp with urgency. The holographic displays flickered as Zha'til ships blinked into view, their plasma turrets locking onto the vault's location. Brace for impact, Layla shouted. The first blast hit the vault's outer shields, sending a shockwave through the command deck. Sparks flew from the consoles, and the ship lurched under the assault. We're taking fire, Elias barked. Return fire. The vault's weapon systems roared to life. Pulses of brilliant white energy shot toward the Zha'til fleet, smashing into the smaller ships with devastating effect. But the Zha'til were relentless, their shields absorbing much of the damage, retaliating with precise laser fire. Not enough.
Serailler l'aide.
We need more power. Elias' mind raced. The star was their only chance to turn the tide, but it was still unstable, still in the process of being drained. And they were being torn apart by the Zha'til's overwhelming firepower. In the depths of the fleet, Legionnaire 1 stood in the heart of the flagship, the hum of ancient technology surrounding them. Their hands were steady as they activated the final command sequence. "The energy core is ready," the Legionnaire reported. Initiating final phase. The ship's massive cannons glowed with untold power, their barrels aligning toward the Zha'til fleet. Energy coursed through the ancient vessel systems, lighting up the dark expanse of the astral reaches. Elias' voice crackled through the comms. "Legionnaire 1, how long until we can fire?" "5 minutes," the soldier replied. "But we need to hold them off until then. The Zha'til will not go down easily." The battle intensifies. The Zha'til ships came in waves now, their relentless assault overwhelming the vault's defenses. Each blast from the Zha'til tore through shields, sending sparks and debris flying. The vault was losing ground, but its weapons retaliated with unrelenting fury. "We're running out of time," Layla shouted, her voice strained. "The star's energy is too unstable. We need to stabilize the core or the entire system will collapse." "We don't have time for that," Elias snapped. "Get those weapons online now." The vault's primary guns fired once more, each shot making a brief but brilliant flash in the void. The Zha'til fleet recoiled, their ships taking heavy damage, but it was not enough to turn the tide. Enemy ships closing in from all sides, Sarah reported, her voice laced with panic. "We're surrounded." In the heart of the Zha'til fleet, on board the Zithra, Ctheranes' mandibles clicked with satisfaction. The human fleet was battered and broken, their weapons faltering in the face of overwhelming force. "Now," Ctheran growled, "unleash the Oblivion Lance." A desperate gamble. Elias stood before the control panel, fists clenched. They were running out of options. "Legionnaire 1, I need that energy now," Elias shouted. The Legionnaire didn't respond immediately, their face still hidden behind the blackened helmet. But when they did speak, their voice was colder than the void. "It is ready. You must guide it." Elias looked at the massive holographic map, tracking the Zha'til ships as they closed in on the vault. The Zithra was directly in their path. The flagship was about to fire its devastating weapon. "We need to buy time," Elias said. "Layla, Sarah, get to the main cannons. We have one shot at this." Without another word, Sarah and Layla turned, racing toward the weapon controls. Elias turned to Legionnaire 1. "Fire it." Legionnaire 1 didn't hesitate. The command was instantaneous. The massive cannon of the flagship, once dormant for millennia, powered up with a pulse of energy that shook the vault to its core. The wave of energy erupted from the ship's belly, a beam of pure force that shot toward the Zha'til fleet. For a moment, everything went quiet. Then the energy beam collided with the Zithra. The explosion was blinding. The aftermath. Elias' vision was blurred, his ears ringing from the shockwave of the blast. The vault shook violently, and the floor beneath him trembled as the massive Zha'til flagship shattered into 1,000 pieces. "We did it!" Sarah gasped, barely able to stand. Elias coughed, the acrid smell of burnt metal filling the air. "Not yet. We still have the rest of their fleet to deal with." But as the explosion from the Zithra spread across the Zha'til forces, the remaining ships faltered. The unrelenting assault slowed as their flagship was destroyed, a chain reaction starting to ripple through their formation. A shattered victory. "We've hurt them," Layla said, her voice hoarse. "But we're not out of this yet. The rest of their fleet is still intact." Elias looked at the battlefield through the viewport. The Zha'til were regrouping, but they were no longer the unstoppable force they once were. "We've bought ourselves some time," Elias said, looking at the shattered remnants of the Zithra and the rest of the fleet. "And time is all we need." The battlefield was a chaotic swirl of fire and wreckage. The once imposing Zha'til fleet, their pride and terror of the galaxy, was now a fragmented nightmare. The remains of the Zithra floated in a field of debris, its shattered carcass still glowing with the aftermath of its own destruction. Elias stood at the command console, watching the disarray unfold across the stars. The Zha'til were retreating, their forces scattered, but it wasn't over. Not yet. We've hurt them, but they won't give up so easily, Layla said, her voice strained but resolute. The Zha'til will regroup. They'll be back with everything they've got. Elias clenched his fists, staring out into the void. They'll never be the same again. We've shattered their command structure. We've broken their back. But not their spirit, Sarah added, her tone grim. They'll rebuild. The Zithra was their strongest weapon. Without it, they'll be looking for revenge. Elias nodded, acknowledging the truth in her words. We'll have to strike before they have the chance to recover. A grim decision. The vault had taken heavy damage during the battle. Its outer hull was pockmarked with impacts, and internal systems were still flickering in places, struggling to stabilize. But its core was intact, and the fleet, though battered, was still alive. In the heart of the flagship, Legionnaire 1 stood before a holographic display, reviewing the shattered remnants of the Zha'til fleet. Their face was as unreadable as always, but Elias could see the weight of history on their shoulders. We have won a victory, Legionnaire 1 said, their voice cold but firm. But the war is far from over. The Zha'til will not forgive this loss. We don't expect them to, Elias replied. What's our next move? Legionnaire 1 paused, then turned to face Elias fully. The Zha'til have a secondary fleet, a reserve force that was hidden in the nearby nebula. If we do not strike now, they will regroup and come for us with overwhelming force. Elias's heart sank. Another fleet? They'd barely survived this one. How soon until they mobilize? Soon, the soldier replied, their voice like a frozen wind. If we are to defeat them, we must act now. The last gamble. In the war room, the tension was palpable. The team gathered around the central table, the map of the galaxy hovering before them. The remnants of the Zha'til fleet were visible in the outer systems, but it was the secondary fleet hidden in the nebula that concerned them most. We have to take the fight to them, Elias said, leaning over the map. We can't afford to wait for them to regroup. If we let them retreat to the nebula, we risk losing everything. But the nebula is a death trap, Sarah countered. It's filled with electromagnetic storms, gravity wells, and so much debris that even the most advanced sensors will be useless. We don't have a choice, Elias said, his voice hardening. We go in, we hit them fast, and we hit them hard. We destroy their remaining fleet before they can even think about rebuilding. Layla shook her head. It's too risky. The star's energy is still unstable. If we push it too far, we might lose the fleet. We don't have time for caution, Elias snapped. The Zha'til will regroup, and when they do, they'll be stronger than before. We can't afford to play it safe. Legionnaire 1 stepped forward, their voice unwavering. We will assist you in this. We were created for this purpose, and we will fulfill it. If the star's energy is unstable, we will stabilize it. But we must move quickly. Elias turned to his team. Prepare for battle. This is our last chance. Into the nebula. The vault's engines roared to life as it shot forward, the fleet following close behind. The nebula loomed ahead, a swirling mass of gases, debris, and gravitational anomalies that could easily tear apart an unprepared fleet. Inside the command deck, the air was thick with tension. The crew worked in perfect synchronization, each person knowing their role in the deadly game they were about to play. Entering the nebula in 3, 2, 1, Sarah said, her voice steady as the vault plunged into the swirling darkness. The view outside the ship was consumed by a thick cloud of gas and starlight. The sensors flickered and sputtered, rendering the crew nearly blind as they moved deeper into the nebula's heart. The only light came from the occasional flare of energy, lighting up the gas clouds like bursts of dying stars. "Stay sharp," Elias ordered. "We don't know what we'll encounter in here." Suddenly, the sensors flared to life. "Zha'til ships detected," Layla shouted, her fingers flying over the console. "Multiple contacts, coming from all directions. Brace for impact," Elias shouted, gripping the edge of his station. The clash in the nebula. The Zha'til fleet surged from the nebula's shadows, a nightmarish wave of ships designed for the most brutal of battles. Their weapons fired in quick succession, bursts of energy cutting through the nebula's thick fog, narrowly missing the vault. "Return fire," Elias barked. "Take them down." The vault's weapons roared to life, sending out deadly pulses of energy that tore into the nearest Zha'til ship. The explosion illuminated the nebula, casting eerie shadows across the fleet. But for every Zha'til ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. "We're outnumbered," Sarah shouted, her voice tinged with desperation. Elias's mind raced. They couldn't hold out forever in the nebula's treacherous environment. They had to break through and take out the Zha'til command vessel. If they could destroy the heart of the fleet, the rest would fall apart. "We need to find their flagship," Elias yelled. Layla's fingers danced over her console, her eyes scanning the sensor readings. "I've got a lock. It's at the center of the formation. If we can get close enough, we can hit it with everything we've got." "Then let's make it happen," Elias said, his voice grim. Full speed ahead. The final assault. The vault surged through the nebula, dodging bursts of plasma fire from the Zha'til ships. The distance between them and the Zha'til flagship closed quickly, the massive vessel looming ahead like a monster in the dark. "We're in range," Sarah said, her hands steady as she activated the ship's main cannons. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The vault's weapons discharged in a brilliant blast of energy, a beam of pure force that slammed into the flagship's shields. The impact sent shockwaves rippling through the nebula, scattering nearby Zha'til ships, but the flagship's shields held. Barely. "Again," Elias ordered. Another blast from the vault's cannons tore into the flagship's defenses, and this time the shields cracked. "We're breaking through," Layla shouted. With one final, desperate push, the vault's weapons fired again, a blast so powerful that it tore through the flagship's defenses and exploded its central core. The flagship erupted in a cataclysmic explosion, its massive hull disintegrating into millions of pieces. The end of the Zha'til threat. The nebula grew eerily silent, the only sound the steady hum of the vault's engines. The Zha'til fleet had been decimated. Their flagship was gone, and with it the heart of their forces. But as Elias stood at the command center, staring at the wreckage outside, he knew this victory was only temporary. The Zha'til were resourceful and they would regroup. But for now, humanity had dealt a devastating blow. "Is it over?" Layla asked, her voice small. Elias looked out into the debris field, his expression grim. "No, but we've given them a reason to think twice before coming after us again." The silence that followed the destruction of the Zha'til flagship was unnerving. The nebula, once alive with the sounds of battle, was now a still graveyard. The debris from shattered ships floated like dead husks, drifting aimlessly in the void. The vault lingered among the remains of the Zha'til fleet, its lights flickering faintly, a lone sentinel in the midst of the wreckage. Inside, The crew gathered in the war room, their faces grim, their bodies weary from the harrowing conflict they just endured. Elias stood at the head of the table, looking at the fractured star map. The Zha'til fleet had been decimated, but something in his gut told him this wasn't the end. Not yet. "We've won," Sarah said quietly, her voice lacking the usual fire. "But I can't shake the feeling that the war isn't over." Elias didn't respond immediately. His eyes were locked on the map, a cold weight pressing down on him. The Zha'til had been crippled, yes, but they were far from annihilated. Their retreat would be temporary, their vengeance inevitable. "We've made them bleed," he said finally, his voice low but filled with resolve. "They won't forget this. But it's not just about fighting anymore. We've broken their leadership, shattered their fleet. We've sent a message that humanity will not bow down to them. But at what cost?" Layla's voice cut through the air, sharp with concern. "We've lost so many good people, Elias, and we're still in the heart of the galaxy's most dangerous war zone." "I know," Elias admitted, his expression tight. "But this is the turning point. They'll know we're not just survivors. We're fighters, and we will finish what we started." The decision. Despite the victory, Elias felt the weight of the cost pressing on him. The vault systems were damaged, its crew exhausted, and the star's energy was still dangerously unstable. Time was running out for them to complete the mission, the very thing that had started this entire conflict. The destruction of the Zha'til threat and the salvation of the galaxy. "We have to move fast," Elias said, his voice hardening. "We can't wait for the Zha'til to rebuild. We strike now while they're reeling. We take the fight to their homeworld and end this once and for all." "Are you suggesting a full-scale assault?" Sarah asked, her eyebrows raised in disbelief. "Their homeworld is a fortress. Even with their fleet in disarray, it's still too dangerous." "It's our best shot," Elias replied. "The longer we wait, the more time they have to regroup. We can't afford to let them rebuild. We strike at their heart, and we make sure they can never come back." Layla stared at him, her eyes searching his face for any sign of doubt. But there was none. Elias was determined. "We'll need everything we've got," Layla said quietly. "The Zha'til will be expecting us. We'll be fighting on their terms." "We have one advantage," Elias said. "They think we're done. They think we're weak. We'll catch them off guard. We hit hard and fast, and we don't stop until it's over." A plan of desperation. The team worked through the night formulating a plan. It wasn't perfect, nothing ever was, but it was their only option. They had one chance to end this. The Zha'til homeworld, Zalwraith, was a fortress planet surrounded by layers of defense. Every inch of its surface was protected by high-tech weaponry, and its atmosphere was rigged to destroy anything that came too close. The vault would have to navigate through a gauntlet of defenses just to get in close enough to deliver a decisive blow. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was the Zha'til's ultimate weapon, a weapon they had only recently discovered in the ruins of their fleet, the Oblivion Bomb, a device capable of eradicating entire star systems, wiping them from existence in a flash of light. "We have to destroy it before they can use it," Elias said, his voice cold with determination. "If they activate that weapon, everything we've fought for will be gone in an instant." "But how?" Sarah asked. "How do we even get to it?" "We'll have to infiltrate the planet," Elias replied. "Hit them where it hurts. We'll take out their defenses, disable their weapon, and make sure they can never use it again." The final assault. The vault's engines roared to life once more as it blasted out of the nebula, heading directly for Zalwraith. The crew was tense, their faces drawn with exhaustion. But there was no turning back. They were committed now. The Zha'til didn't even know they were coming. The first few hours were a blur of fire and fury. The vault's weapons fired relentlessly, cutting through the Zha'til's outer defenses. They fought back with everything they had, but the vault was a battering ram, unstoppable, relentless. Inside the vault, Elias stood at the command center, watching as the battle unfolded. The massive planet loomed in front of them, its surface a maze of towering spires and impregnable fortresses. He could see the faint glow of energy shields flickering across the surface. "We're close," Layla said, her voice tight with urgency. "We've breached their outer defenses. The weapon should be nearby." Elias nodded, his expression hard. "We go in now."
No hesitación.
"Get to the surface and disable that bomb." The vault descended toward the planet's surface, dodging incoming fire as Zha'til ships scrambled to intercept them. But they were too slow, too disorganized. The vault's hull screamed under the strain of the constant bombardment, but it held firm. Infiltration and betrayal. The vault's crew landed in a crater just outside the main Zha'til fortress. Elias led the charge, his heart pounding in his chest. They had minutes, maybe seconds, before the Zha'til realized what was happening and launched a counteroffensive. The ground trembled as the team sprinted toward the massive citadel. The gates were already opening, and as they entered, they were met with a shocking sight. A massive Zha'til command center, the Oblivion bomb looming at its core. But there was something wrong. The Zha'til commander was nowhere to be found. Instead, there was a message playing on a screen. "This is Ctherin. If you are hearing this, you've already failed." Elias froze. The hologram of Ctherin appeared, his mandibles twisting in a cruel smile. "The bomb is already activated. You cannot stop it. You've lost the final choice." Elias's heart raced as the countdown began to flash on the screen. He had moments to make a choice. "Layla, Sarah, get to the bomb," Elias shouted. "I'll hold them off." But as he turned to face the enemy, he saw it, the final twist. Legionnaire 1, standing behind him, revealed their true allegiance. "I was never meant to fight with you," Legionnaire 1 said, voice cold and empty. "I was sent to ensure the Zha'til's victory." Elias's eyes widened in shock as Legionnaire 1 raised their weapon. The last battle was about to begin. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more great content.